All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Judge Law, and we are going to begin with our first appearance calendar with the State Court of Fulton County. This is the expedited accusation calendar, including cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked, and their charges have now been formally accused. So courtroom 2, is there? Great, okay. Ms. Bridgewater, what's the reset date, please?
October 31st, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mhm.
As I was saying, these are cases in which the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County, has recently formally accused the defendant of certain misdemeanor charges. So this would be the defendant's initial appearance before a judicial officer. When I call your case, I will let you know what is your new case number, what are the charges brought against you, who is your appointed counsel if one is required, as well as to set a bond. Some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond, in which you would receive a bond that you would not have to pay for, and you'll be released with certain conditions. If you violate those conditions, your signature bond or your release bond will be revoked and converted to either a cash bond or a surety bond. For those of you who do not qualify for a signature bond today, you will receive either a surety bond or a cash bond. A surety bond is one in which you would obtain a bond by going through a bonding company. You would have to pay a certain percentage amount in order to be released. A cash bond is one where you would have to pay for the entire bond amount out of your own pocket. Conditions may still apply. These are criminal misdemeanor charges against the individual defendants, so please remember these rights. The first one is the right to remain silent. Anything that you say during this virtual proceeding that's not only being recorded, but also live streamed, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one, or one is not available today. Appointed counsel will be representing you. Please keep in mind that after today, if you are no longer in custody, and if you do not qualify for the public defender's office, it's highly recommended that you retain your own attorney. All right, quorum 2, who do we have first, please?
Good afternoon, Judge Law. We're going to start with the add-on calendar, and that's going to be Ms. Kelly.
Okay. This is State versus Tawina. Is that Taina?
Tajiana.
Tajiana, okay. Tajiana Kelly, accused of simple battery family violence from October 18th of this year under accusation 24 CR 7144G. Ms. Kelly, you've been advised of your constitutional rights, and your attorney is going to be...
I will be representing her, Your Honor.
Oh, there you are.
Good
Okay, okay. I'm sorry, I was looking for our usual suspects, Mr. McLean and Mr. Cook, so I apologize. Mr. Howard, yes, sir?
First.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rhodes, what's the recommendation, sir?
Yes, the recommendation is for a $2,000 bond through pretrial services.
Any issue with contact or stay away?
Yes, no further contact. I believe the victim in this. No further violent contact with Mr. Farmer. I believe the first name is Justin, last name is Farmer.
Okay. Ms. Abden, any objection to that bond?
No objection, Your Honor, and she'd be allowed to go back to her home, correct? The incident location?
As long as there's no violent contact with Justin Farmer.
No objection. Thank you.
Ms. Kelly, the state and the defense agree that you receive a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services. Is going to be on a level 1, which means you report to pretrial services once a month, as long as your case is active and pending. You are to have no violent contact with Justin Farmer, which means that you can have contact and communication with Mr. Farmer, but there cannot be any physical or verbal altercations that would involve law enforcement. If you violate this particular condition, you could be arrested again and brought back to jail with no bond. Do you understand? No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons, and your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. If you change your address, make sure we are the first folks to find out about that in writing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is gonna be Tyler Batts, position number 2 on the regular calendar.
Thank you. This is State versus Tyler Batts, case number 24CR7131C. Mr. Batts, you've been accused of battery, family violence, and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer from October 18th of this year. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Daryl Coleman. Good afternoon, Mr. Coleman. And Mr. Howard, this is the second arrest.
2020 shoplifting conviction. That's
Oh.
it.
Thank you. Ms. Mukeke, good afternoon. And looks like you drew the short straw for this weekend. So what's your recommendation for Mr. Batts?
Yes, Your Honor. Just to put the facts on the record very briefly, the victim in this case is Krista Nick. The incident location is 967 Martin Street Southeast. Officers were dispatched to that location and met with the victim, who told them that she wanted her boyfriend, the defendant, to be evaluated by Grady. Officers did notice the defendant's lip was busted. She had a black eye and a bump on her head. When they asked her about her injuries, she said the defendant had pushed her, which caused her to fall, and that is how she sustained the injuries. Officers found the defendant locked in the bathroom. He refused to open the door. They were eventually able to open the door and get him out, but he was combative and resisted arrest. Ms. Nick did tell the officers the defendant suffers from MH, has stopped taking his medicine, and has stopped seeing his therapist. We have spoken with her. She says they've been in a relationship for about 4 years. They don't have a DV history. She's not afraid of him. She just wants him to be on medication and be treated for his MH. She said that before this incident, he wasn't acting like himself, and he asked her to call the police because he felt like he couldn't control himself. She does want to continue contact and wants him to return to the residence. The recommendation is going to be for a signature bond. That he take an MHET and remain compliant with any treatment plans. Some anger awareness might be beneficial. I will leave the contact to the court's discretion. It does seem as though he was suffering from some MH issues, and she said they don't have a DV history, but she did sustain some violent injuries. So I'm not sure if them being back in the same residence is going to be best for her or safe for her, but I will leave that in the court's discretion.
He is 24, 25 years old, Mr. Coleman?
24, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Coleman, does he have other family?
He did not give me any contact information for any other family members, no emergency contact number. I also would have no objection to a signature bond.
I'm not comfortable with a signature bond at this stage, given the allegations set forth. He's got to be released to the custody of someone who will make sure that he undertakes his evaluation and is compliant with treatment and medication.
Well, again, I'd be arguing for a signature bond. This is only a second arrest. The prior arrest was for a nonviolent offense. Tyler Batts is employed. He has lived here in the Atlanta area for the last 8 years. I would like to preserve his job if possible.
I need someone to whom he can be released, a co-signer, given his MH situation.
If I could ask Mr. Batts if he has anyone that I could call on his behalf.
There, Christian, Nikki on Zoom.
Sorry?
Mr. Batts, do you have any other family members who can, with whom you can live? Okay.
Not really.
Mr. Coleman, we'll need to make sure that he is released into custody of someone who can help him with this MH issue, given the allegations set forth in the warrant.
To my father to try
Okay,
to reach out for that, but we also collectively do have like pets together. So
If someone could give me the name and phone number for his father, I could reach out.
okay, thank you. Presently on the battery is going to be 2,500. On the willful obstruction is 500. This is a $3,000 surety bond. No contact with Christian Nicky. He cannot return to the location at 967 Martin Street, Southeast Atlanta. He may return one time only with a police officer in order to retrieve his belongings. No alcohol, no illegal drugs, and no firearms, and he has to be compliant with all medication and MH treatment. He can only be released to the custody of a family member whom he will have to identify. And with
But
whom,
again, no signature bond.
not at the present time. Thank you.
I'm sorry, what does that mean for me?
It's a $3,000 surety bond, Mr. Betts. You would have to pay for the bond out of your own pocket, or you would have to go through a bonding company.
So
Bonding
that
company
would,
typically
that would be
charge.
roughly $350 to a bonding company to get out, sir.
Can you say it again?
That would be about $350 to get out through a bonding company.
Okay.
But again, if you could give contact information for a relative or friend who could post the bond to one of the sheriffs, they could give it to me.
So I give it to you or give it to the officer here?
Either way, as long as I get a contact information from someone so I can call on your behalf.
Okay.
Mr. Batts, give it to the officer and he will put it in the chat to Mr. Coleman. Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
you.
All right.
Yeah.
Deputy Cole, you'll take the next case whenever you're ready.
I got you. Your Honor, we're gonna go to position number 5 next, Destiny Carter.
I have Destiny Carter, 24 CR 7136H, accused of terroristic threats and acts from October 18th, 2024. Ms. Carter, you've been advised of your rights, and presently your attorney is Mr. Coleman. This is her second arrest. I understand she's got an open case.
She got an open battery out of Florida, but I think she was a juvie then, so this is probably her first adult arrest. She's
Okay.
17.
All right, thank you. Ms. McKay?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at 8085 Adair Lane in Sandy Springs. The victim is Tashana Carter, who is the defendant's mother. Officers arrived at the incident location in regards to a domestic dispute. While officers were speaking with both parties, the victim stated more than one time to her mother that she would whip her ass and kick her ass after the police leave. At one point, while the police were there, she asked her mother if she wanted to fight, then proceeded to set down her 4-month-old child in order to fight her mother. Officers then escorted her to her bedroom to separate the parties. Mr. Howard, did you say she was 17?
I think so. Hold on.
She's got a 2006.
So she'll be 18 in November.
Okay.
Yeah.
The state's recommendation is going to be for $1,000 surety bond. No further contact with Tashana Carter at this time. We've not had the opportunity to speak with her mother yet. At this time, stay away from the incident location. Some anger awareness. She's going to need a one-time police escort to get her belongings, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. If we do have an opportunity to speak with her mother and she says she's okay with contact, of course, the bond can be updated. But at this time, we are requesting no further contact and a stay away.
Is Tashana Carter on Zoom? This will be the time to unmute and start your video. I have someone who's on a Samsung. Could that person please identify themselves?
I asked earlier today, Judge, but they didn't
All
respond.
right, the person on Samsung who's wearing the sunshades, who are you? Can't hear you. Cannot hear you. You need to unmute.
Okay, I just unmuted. My name is Bonnie. I am Ray Mosby's mother.
Okay, please mute your screen. Let's go ahead and change her name to Bonnie for Ray Mosley. All right, Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, Your Honor, I'd be requesting signature bond for Ms. Carter. This appears that this is her first adult arrest. She is 17 years of age, is residing with her mother. She is attending the 12th grade at Independence High School. She is the mother of a 4-year-old child. Again, due to lack of criminal history, I will be requesting signature bond.
4 year or 4 month?
For a month.
Okay. And I'll be glad to give her a signature bond, but she'll need a cosigner. And since the alleged victim is a mother who is also, who else will be able to cosign her bond?
She did not give me the name or contact number for any other emergency contact.
We'll need somebody to cosign a bond since she's only 17.
Ms. Carter, if you have the name of another relative that would co-sign your bond, if you could please give that to one of the sheriffs.
All right, she'll need to identify that person. On the terroristic threats and acts, that's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. I'll need a family member with whom she's going to live to co-sign the bond, not Tashana Carter.
I could, my stepfather.
Well, you'll need to give the name, address, and phone number to the deputies, and then he will send that to your attorney. We can put that in the bond. What's your stepfather's name?
Margus Carter.
Excuse me?
Margus, Margus.
Marquis Carter, and where does he live?
I'm not sure the address. I would have to call.
Okay. As soon as you get the address, that's when you can be released.
Okay.
Well, I would definitely need a phone number.
Oh, 404-642-8188.
Thank you.
Spell that first name again.
Margus.
Guis. Okay.
Last name Carter.
Yes.
All right. After this moment, there shall be no further contact with Tashana Carter. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Miss Destiny Carter is allowed, and she has to stay away from 8085 Adair Lane in Sandy Springs. She's not allowed to live at that location. She's allowed a one-time visit to that apartment in order to retrieve her child as well as her personal belongings. She can only go there with a police escort. After that, she would have to update the court with her new address in 30 days of being released. Yes, Ms. Carter?
My child isn't there. He's at his father's house, but my mother won't give me the number to reach my child. So how does that work?
Where is he?
He's at his father's house, but he shouldn't even be over there because his father has
His biological father's house?
Yes, but he has a defects case open, so he shouldn't even be over there. I don't know why they let him over there.
All right. You would have to approach defects and get that information.
To get what?
Whatever contact information for the biological father.
I have his number. It's just I don't have his mother's number, and he has me blocked, so I don't know how that works.
You need to contact defects, ma'am.
Hey, what's your level?
Level 1.
And what was that amount again?
2,000. Ms. Carter, please understand that this is a criminal case involving a victim. You are required to stay away from Tashana Carter and stay away from Adair Lane, except for that one-time visit. If you get arrested again, or if you violate these conditions, you will be back in jail with no bond.
Yes, ma'am.
And your stepfather has to co-sign your bond. The sooner he co-signs it, the sooner you'll be released.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Next case, please.
It's going to be position number 7, Ms. Coleman.
All right, Deputy, looks like we have someone joining in from jail court as well. So Dion Coleman is accused of terroristic threats and acts from September 24th, 2024. Ms. Coleman, your case number is 24CR7139A. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Daryl Coleman.
Second arrest. Last was 1999 probation.
Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred September 24th, 2024. The victims are a AmeriSave mortgage employee. There wasn't one employee named in the warrant. That is Miss Lynn Leonard, who I believe contacted police. The defendant is accused of sending emails to AmeriSave threatening to kill the employees after she became upset about an issue with autopay. The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with Lynn Leonard, no further violent contact with the AmeriSave employees. The reason being is if she has a bank account with them, I'm sure she's going to need to have some sort of contact to close her account or do whatever it is that she needs to do. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol. A BHET might be appropriate. The defense can speak more to that, but based on what was in the emails, it seems like there could potentially be a behavioral issue.
Mr. Coleman? Any objection to an evaluation?
No objection. Obviously, we have no objection to a signature bond.
On the charge of terroristic threats and acts, Ms. Coleman, your bond is going to be $1,500, $1,500. Signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You have to report to pretrial once a month. You are not to physically enter any office building belonging to AmeriSave Mortgage or wherever their offices are. You're only allowed to have online contact for legitimate inquiries. There shall not be any language that indicates any kind of violent effect. And if you believe that you cannot communicate with them, you can give someone else the third power attorney to deal with your financial issues with that bank. But if there are any further communications that rise to the level of what we consider to be terroristic or violent, you will be in violation of the bond and be back in jail. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. Your next court date will be sent to your mailing address. And thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 16, Ms. Ray Mosby.
Jail Court iPhone, do you need to be addressed shortly? I don't know if there's any urgency there, so if you like to.
Your Honor, I'm gonna do these the female first and then the private attorneys, and then we can go to jail court.
Okay. All right, we'll go with that plan. Ray Shanae Mosey is accused of battery from October 18, 2024. Her case number is 24CR7146E. Ms. Mosey, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Abden. Any priors? I have first arrest. All right. Mr. Rhodes or Ms. Mukeke? Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor. As it relates to this particular case, the state's recommendation, realizing it's the first arrest, it's going to be $2,000 sign-on bond through pretrial service, whichever level you deem appropriate. We would ask for no further contact for the victim, in this case, Miss Amisa Ross, and to stay away from 5370 Campbellton/Fairburn Road.
Any objection, Ms. Abden?
Your Honor, we'd be asking for a signature bond through the jail. This is her first arrest. It's my understanding that this happened at the parking lot at Publix and that the two women don't know each other and that my client was not the first aggressor. She is denying the allegations. She does have a 15-year-old daughter. She is employed. And we're just asking, Your Honor, because it is her first arrest, for a signature bond through the jail.
Okay. But it is one involving alleged violence, so she's going to go through pretrial.
Understood. Thank you.
This is going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. She would have to report to pretrial once a month. No further contact with Anissa Ross. She'll have to stay away from the Publix grocery store at 5370 Campbellton Fairburn Road. Just need to find another Publix. And no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Her next court date will be sent to her current mailing address. Thank you.
Your Honor, that was 2,000 SOB pre-trial?
Correct, level 3. Level 1, excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Next, can we go to position number 13, Mr. Albert Howard?
Judge, I'll be handling this. Scott Smith, good to see you.
Oh, Mr. Smith, yes, good afternoon. All right. This was position 13. Scott Smith. Okay. This is State versus Charles Henley, case number 24 CR 007-132Y. Mr. Henley is accused of battery.
It's Howard, right? Or Henley?
This is Howard, position 13, y'all.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay, you're correct. It's Albert Howard. Excuse me. Mr. Smith, is that? I wrote your name down the wrong slot. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Yes, Albert Howard, Judge.
Got it. Okay. This is Albert Howard, charged with simple battery family violence from August 29th, 2024. Mr. Albert Howard, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. Scott Smith. Do you see Mr. Smith on the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
19 total on probation out of Taylor County for burglary. Has a on parole for ag battery. Does have a parole hold. 2020 FTA. That's all.
That's good. Thank you. And there's a parole hold and active probation. Okay. Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor, very, very briefly, based on the 19 cycles in the parole hold, I am recommending a good bond or asking that you set a good bond at the amount of $3,000. This was a simple battery at the Savannah Suites at 3480 Welcome All Road in Southwest Atlanta. We ask that he has no further contact with Reagan Pugh, and that's spelled RAGAN Pue, and that he stays away from 3480 Welcome All Road in Southwest Atlanta. Thank you, Judge.
All right. Is there a Reagan Pugh on Zoom who'd like to chime in? All right. Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Judge. Just run through Ayala really quickly. Client's 45 years old. He's lived at the same address for 25 years, which is in Box Springs. It's a home that is owned. It's a family home. He's in. Part of what the allegations are is that Miss Pugh and himself were staying at a hotel for 6 months, or she alleges 1 month in the warrant, or the officer alleges that in the warrant. It's not true. This is an old warrant that takes place in August of this year. Basically, she alleges that he pushed her onto the bed and attempted to put her in a headlock. He's a grown man. He didn't do that. But nonetheless, she does admit that she did act in a violent, tumultuous manner towards him, she says, in retribution. As you've seen 9,000 times, Judge, it's an argument over a woman. It happens at 5 o'clock in the morning. Law enforcement never reached out to him, never interviewed him. Yes, he's on parole, and it's stemming out of the same probation case in Fulton County. We've already reached out to his parole officer, so the goal is obviously to resolve that case favorably, get in touch with this Miss Pugh to see if she wants to, if she's going to stand by her story, or she's going to be consistent with what client says happened. Client allegedly never put his hands on her. Client has two children. One is grown, one is a teenager, 14 years old. His son's 14, his daughter's 25. He has a verifiable employment. He's a drywall construction worker, and has been doing that for some time since his release from prison. I'm asking for a lesser bond. I understand the good bond. I'm fine with that. I'm just asking for $1,000 bond based upon the allegation that there's no consistency to the violent acts, that the victim suffered no injuries according to the officer, and then he put in the report or the warrant. Those were reviewed on body cam by his immediate supervisor. So I am asking for $1,000 bond, just simply based upon the allegation of no injury and him not being on scene and not being interviewed.
Okay. From what I gather, looks like he wasn't at the scene when the police arrived at the location.
That's correct. He was not there, and nobody ever reached out to Atlanta. Never reached out. I
don't know. That'll be something we have to decide. On the simple battery, it's going to be a $1,000 surety bond. No, unfortunately, he will have to be released to the parole hold. So once he makes bond, he'll be released to his parole hold. He is to have no further contact with Reagan Pugh, that's Pue, and which means, Mr. Howard, you have to stay 200 yards away from her and not communicate with her in any way, form, or manner. You're also to stay 200 yards away from the Savannah Suites, or whatever the motel is called, at 3480 Welcome All Road in Southwest Atlanta. no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And your next court date will be October 31st.
Thank you, Judge. May I be excused?
Yes, Mr. Smith, have a good day. Thank you.
Judge, do I prepare the order? I'm so sorry, Judge Law.
No, the
Oh.
bond order will be filed today.
Okay, thank you so much. Good to see you, Judge.
You too. Next case, please.
This is going to be another private attorney. It's going to be position number 15, Mr. Joshua McCoy.
All right, yep, I got the right spot. All right, this is Joshua Brian McCoy, case 24 CR 007-145C, accused of interference with custody. Mr. McCoy, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Justin Spitzman. I see that this is a second arrest. What was the first one?
05 fleeing an officer.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor. As it relates to this particular case, on September 20th, 2024, at approximately 3:30, Officer Morgan of the Roswell Police Department responded to the International Charter School of Atlanta at 1335 North Meadow Parkway in Roswell, 30076, in reference to a child custody dispute originally dispatched as a past abduction. The caller was the victim, Ms. Antanya McCoy, reported that the suspect, Mr. Joshua McCoy, violated their Cherokee County Superior Court order and picked up their child that they have together, Jonah McCoy, whose date of birth is 11/10/2018, at the International Charter School of Atlanta in the afternoon. Ms. McCoy informed their guardian ad litem, attorney Rachel College, to absolve custody agreement related issues. And it was understood that Tanya McCoy had child custody the week of September 16, 2024, when this happened. Rachel College contacted Joshua McCoy's attorney and was informed that Joshua McCoy might take Jonah McCoy back to the school. And that forms the basis for the charges, Your Honor. As it relates to bond, we are asking for a $3,000 bond, in this case, good bond, and we're asking that there be no further violent contact or no violent contact with the Tanya McCoy or the child in this case. Thank you, Your Honor.
And the biological mother is Antonia McCoy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there an Antonia McCoy on Zoom? All right, Mr. Swisman?
Judge, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Unique set of circumstances here, Your Honor. We actually found out this warrant was active and Mr. McCoy turned himself in on Thursday night. There was some issue in Fulton County and they couldn't book him in. So he appears on this calendar after sitting for 2 days. The issue as it relates to the actual allegations, Your Honor, are both him and his ex-wife have joint custody of the child.
In the Cherokee County case?
In the Cherokee County case, if you actually look at the initial divorce decree, it actually doesn't even specify who gets one, when, where, and why. It's basically to be decided by the gal. So effectively what happens on this day is, Judge, they've been co-parenting and exchanging this child without issue for years. There is a confusion as to relates to who is supposed to have the child or not. The gal contacts Mr. McCoy saying, hey, you've kept him for too long. He says, all right, I'm 2 hours away from her home. Can I meet her halfway? She says, no, you need to go all the way back to the house. That's 2 hours in rush hour traffic with the child in the car. And so then there's an exchange that occurs on the My Family Wizard with Mr. McCoy and the guardian ad litem. And he returns the child the next day because it just was not practical to do any other thing. He notifies them that the child's in good health. There was no issues. I actually talked to the detective about this case, and there were some, I think, indications that this is probably best dealt with in civil court, but here we are. So what I'm asking for, Judge, is a $1,000 UJR. I mean, he has, I think, absolutely no felony criminal history, no crimes of violence. This wasn't violence. And there really shouldn't be any no further violent conditions at all. The victim's not really the alleged ex-wife, and there was no act that would even justify something like that. So I think that just gets things to be a little squirrely under the notion of these allegations. So we'd ask for 1,000 UJR. He would qualify and no other conditions.
Okay. On the interference with custody, the bond's going to be $2,500. It's going to be a signature bond through the jail.
Thank you.
No further violent contact with Antonia McCoy. He's to stay away from the international charter school. I need him to stay away from that school. No, you're going to listen very carefully. You can comply with the parenting plan, but you're not allowed to pick up or drop off the child at that particular school. If there is any confusion about pick up and drop off or parenting, Mr. McCoy would have to go to the back to the Cherokee County Superior Court and get clarification of what exactly are his obligations with respect to pick up and drop off involving the school. But otherwise, he's not allowed back at that school, and he'll need to have clarification in writing from the Superior Court as to what he's required to do.
There's just one issue with that, Your Honor, is that the custody agreement actually indicates that the exchange of the child occurs through picking up or dropping off at school. So this wasn't a confusion thing in terms of whether he was supposed to pick up or drop off. It was the allegation that the gal said he kept the child longer than he was supposed to. And so I understand what the spirit
is the focus of the pick up and drop off.
Right. So the way that they, and Mr. McCoy, hold on, buddy. The way that the child is exchanged between husband and wife or ex-wife is like, as he gets there, I think it's after school on Fridays, and then there's a return to school on Monday, which then the ex-wife takes the child or something of that nature. So that would create quite a problem, I think, for both parties. And so I think we're clear on what occurred here, and I think we're clear on how it occurred, Your Honor. And the second that he was notified, hey, you're keeping the child longer, he made efforts to actually return the child. It wasn't as if he said, I'm not doing it. So I would just respectfully ask that the custodial arrangement continue through the divorce decree that was and the custodial agreement that was in place.
And I just do want to clarify and that the child was returned the next day, according to law enforcement.
Okay. But if the school is the pick up and drop off, which I have no idea why they're involving the school and why they don't do it at a police precinct or at a juvenile court, but that's up to the Cherokee County Superior Court. All right, I'll rescind the part about the school. He must be in strict compliance with the decree for parenting and joint visitation and joint custody with regards to the Cherokee County Superior Court order 21 CBE 0903 EM. Is that the correct case number, Mr. Spitzman?
Yes, I believe so, Your Honor, and I appreciate your flexibility on that issue.
All right. But he will report to pretrial once a month, and his next court date will be sent to his current address.
Okay, I understand. Mr. McCoy, did you have anything that I missed on that? If the answer is no, just thumbs up for me. Thumbs up. All right, buddy. Okay, we're going to get this bond posted and get you out of there. I'm sorry, signature bond.
Excuse me, Judge. I thought you said through the jail. That's what I wrote down. You had $2,000 share.
Oh, you're correct. It was
yes, I thought it was the jail.
Right. You're right. It's through the jail. So he doesn't have to report. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Ms. Lewis. Nice to see you both.
You too. Have a good one. Thank
Good
you.
seeing you too.
All right. Next case, please.
It's going to be another private attorney case, and this is position number 9, Mr. Kenneth Costello.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jay Apt on behalf of Mr. Costello.
All right, Mr. Al, good to see you.
Always good to see you, Your Honor.
Sorry you're working on a Saturday, so.
It's all good. This is the job.
All right.
Happy
and sorry, what was your client's last name?
Costello, Your Honor. I'll spell it for you. It's C as in cat, O-S-T-I-L-O-W.
First name, Kenneth?
Correct.
Okay. Mr. Kenneth Costello is accused of simple battery from a March 29th, 2024 incident. His accusation number is 24CR 7141H. That's 007-141H. Mr. Costello, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Abbott. Do you see him on the screen?
I do.
All right, good. I understand this is his 4th arrest. Any open cases?
Last I got was 1995.
Okay. Mr. Ms.
It's me, Your Honor.
Sorry. Yes, Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at the Independent, which I believe is a bar located at 931 Monroe Drive Northeast. The victim in this case is Gitali Sharma. The defendant is accused of pushing the victim into a chair and then grabbing the back of her hoodie and pulling her to the ground during an altercation between the parties where the defendant accused the victim of stealing his wallet. The incident was observed by a bartender named Kimberly Newman, who told officers that the defendant is no longer allowed at the bar. The defendant did eventually find his wallet, which was actually in his possession. Given that his last arrest cycles were from the 90s, the state would be fine with a signature bond, no further contact with the victim, Gitali Sharma, stay away from that incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bonds. Some anger awareness might be beneficial. And I would ask the court to sound for the victim, Gitali Sharma.
Ms. Sharma, if you're on Zoom, please unmute and start your video. Mr. Abbott, any objection to the bond as indicated by Ms. Mulcahy?
No, Your Honor. My client's 60 years old. He owns a home in Atlanta. He's a software engineer full-time. He's a Georgia Tech graduate. He's lived in Atlanta 40 years. It's been 30 years since his last arrest. So I would ask the court for a signature bond and whatever other conditions the court sees as appropriate.
Mr. Costello, your bond's going to be set at $3,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. You'll need to report to pretrial twice a month. No further contact with Gitali Sharma. And you're not welcome back to the Independence bar or club or restaurant, whatever it's called, at 931 Monroe Street in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. You are to abstain from alcohol until further order of the court, and you are going to be subject to random screens. Your next court date is going to be sent to your current mailing address. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. That's all my business. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
You too.
Your Honor, the defendants in courtroom 1 and courtroom 2 need their rights read.
Okay. If you just give me about 30 seconds, I have someone from the courthouse trying to call me. Just hold, please.
Okay.
All right. Courtroom 1 and more folks in courtroom 2. Okay. Was that correct, Deputy?
That is correct.
Okay. So the folks who haven't heard the initial announcement, my name is Judge Law, and this is an expedited accusation calendar in which your cases have now been formally accused by the prosecutor, who is the Solicitor General of Fulton County. When we address each of your cases, please remember that these are active pending criminal cases against you. So you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say during the course of this virtual and live streamed proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one, one will be appointed to represent you, unless you have a private counsel. So if you're still in detention at the Fulton County Jail, appointed counsel will continue to represent you unless you choose to retain private counsel. All right, so who are we addressing first?
We're gonna go to courtroom 1. I believe that's position number 8, Mr. Cornog.
This is State versus Kevin Cornog, 24 CR 007140B. Mr. Cornog is accused of loitering and prowling and willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer. Mr. Cornog has apparently 55 cycles and multiple probation violations. Are there any open cases presently?
Got a possession of tools, death by taking 3 counts, giving false name. It's 21 SC 179272.
Thank you. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at the Glenwood apartment complex located at 915 Glenwood Avenue Southeast in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of entering the parking lot of the apartment by waiting until a resident opened the parking lot gate and then proceeded to follow that resident through. Officers observed the defendant riding a bike that he had taken from the bike room wall, and when they tried to detain him, he rode around them in an effort to what looked like escape, but they were able to eventually detain him. He currently has a $1,200 surety bond, $600 on each count. We would just ask that that bond remain the same, that he stay away from the incident location and have no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right, Mr. Coleman, you're his appointed counsel. What's your response?
Your Honor, I'd be requesting a signature bond from Mr. Cornog. I understand his criminal history with the 55 cycles. I would like the court to know, again, that these are just allegations against Mr. Cornog. This is a nonviolent offense. He is 58 years of age, a lifelong resident of Fulton County. I don't believe that he's a flight risk. Again, I'd be requesting a signature bond, or in lieu of that, a low bond.
Okay. I've got a on the loitering and prowling is going to be 500. On the willful obstruction is 500. His total bond is 1,000, and that's going to be a surety bond. Next court date is October 31st. To stay 500 yards away from the entire Glenwood Apartments complex. He's not allowed near the gates, near the parking lots, near the buildings, near the leasing office, nowhere near that location. I'm sorry, Deputy, you will have to unmute courtroom 1. Mr. Cornog, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case.
Okay.
All right. So we will see you on October 31st, unless you bond out. Make sure we have a current address on you. I see there's a Decatur address. So if that's the correct address, that's where we'll send you notice.
What's my bond, man?
1,000 surety bond.
What, you got sign on? That's all?
You don't
That's a good bond, sir. Someone would need to put up about $150 for you to get out.
Okay, all right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next person in courtroom 1 is going to be position number 4, Mr. Adam Byrd.
The state versus Adam Nelson Byrd, BYRD, 24 CR 007-135C, accused of terroristic threats and acts from October 15th, 2024. Mr. Byrd, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Coleman. And
11 total.
Yeah, 11 cycles. Is that possession of firearms still an open case, or was that?
I gotta look it up because I didn't see the. I gotta find the case number. I got
Okay.
27 ag assault conviction, 2014 theft by taking conviction, 08 ag assault robbery first offender. I'll look it up.
Thank you. Ms. Mukeke, what's your recommendation?
The recommendation for this case, Your Honor, is a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with the victims Carla Naylor, no further contact with Avancia Barron, who was also present at the time. Stay away from the incident location, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol. The defendant was having issues at the bank regarding his transactions and trying to take money out of the bank. As the employees were explaining the bank procedure for him to handle this type of issue, the defendant became increasingly irate and told them, "I am going to get my gun and I will be back."
It was DWAP.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coleman?
Yeah, and I'd be requesting a signature bond, or in lieu of that, a low bond for Mr. Byrd. He does have his GED. He tells me that he is currently self-employed as a talent manager. He is the father.
What?
Talent manager.
Talent manager. Okay, got it.
Yes. He's the father of 2 children, ages 12 and 14. Again, I'd be requesting a signature bond, or in lieu of that, a low bond on his behalf.
All right. Okay. Mr. Byrd, your bond is going to be set at $1,500. That's going to be a surety bond. You are to have no further contact with Carla Naylor and Avancia Barron. Actually, you're not supposed to have any contact with any of the staff at the Bank of America locations. You are only authorized to do online banking with Bank of America. You're not allowed to enter any of their branches. until further order of the court. And if you're not satisfied with that, you can give a third-party power attorney to handle your financial transactions for you. But you yourself are not allowed into any of the Bank of America branches, including the one at 3495 Cascade Road in Atlanta, Georgia. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Any firearms that you own must be surrendered to the authorities for destruction. Just to confirm, Mr. Howard, does Mr. Bird have any felony convictions on his record?
Hold on. Yeah, he got the 2017 ag assault conviction.
All right. So, Mr. Bird, by virtue of the fact that you have a felony conviction, by law, you're not allowed to own any firearms. So, according to this warrant, if you do own any firearms, not only will you be in violation of the law, but currently you are to surrender them to the authorities for destruction. Thank you. Oh, your next court date is October 31st.
I couldn't hear the court that again, Your Honor. The next court that I can't hear.
October 31st.
That's up to you. Thank you, Honor.
Courtroom 2, who do we have?
This is going to be position number 1, Mr. Brandon Barnett.
This is State versus Brandon Barnett, accused of willful obstruction of a law enforcement officer from October 17th, 2024. Mr. Barnett, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Coleman. I understand these are 35 cycles with open cases. Does he have any state court case open?
Not that I'm aware of. Not in Fulton, anyway.
Okay.
He's on probation. Possession of a knife or a firearm during the commission. That's out of Henry County. Couple of parole violations in his history. He went to felony early. I'm not sure what his bond was. I'll ask.
Okay. Ms. McCafey?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident occurred at 375 Belgrade Place Southeast in Atlanta. Officers were executing a writ of possession at the incident location. The defendant refused to open the door and give officers access to the resident, and then he ran away on foot, ignoring officers' commands that he stop. He was eventually detained after the officer deployed his taser. The state's recommendation based on his history is a $1,500 surety bond. There is a concern that he will reoffend. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond, and stay away from that incident location.
Do we know what his bond is on his felony case?
I was told one charge was 15,000. I'm not sure about the other ones.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coleman, the bond's going for the willful obstructions of $2,000 signature bond through the jail. To stay away from the incident location, he's not allowed to return to the Belgrade location. Mr. Barnett, do you understand? You cannot return to 375 Belgrade, whatever that address was. What was it, Ms. McCarthy?
375 Belgrade Place Southeast, Atlanta.
You cannot return to that location. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons. And your next court date is going to be October 31st. I'm going to reset this case in light of the fact that he's got a bond in the pending felony case. So if he's released, then I guess we'll just remove it from the calendar. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You got a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. You know those things very well. You don't pay no money on that. Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 3, Mr. Markel Bryant.
Mr. Markel Lamont Bryant has got a case under 24 CR 17133G, accused of battery from, looks like August 25th of this year. Mr. Bryant, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Coleman. And this is his first arrest according to pretrial. Any recommendation, Ms. McCarthy?
Yes, Your Honor. The victim in this case is Ms. Tiana Johnson. The incident location is 1133 Huff Road Northwest in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of striking Ms. Johnson in the face, causing a laceration and bleeding to her lip during a verbal dispute. The defendant also pushed the victim twice. The victim did state that she did punch the defendant after he bumped her and charged at her. Our office has spoken with Ms. Johnson, who says she knows the defendant from when she used to work with him. They never dated, they were just getting to know each other. She confirmed the events in the warrant and stated that she wants no contact and to stay away from the incident location. The state's recommendation is a signature bond through pretrial services, no further contact with Tiana Johnson, stay away from that incident location, anger awareness, no drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond. I believe Ms. Johnson is on the Zoom. If you could please sound for her.
Ms. Tiana Johnson, if you'd like to contribute to these proceedings, you will need to unmute and start your video. All right, Mr. Coleman.
Your Honor, obviously, we have no objection. I believe she's on now.
Okay. Ms. Tiana Johnson, did you want to say something? All right, I think her audio is out, but from what I could make out, she said no. So, all right, so you can stop your video as well. Thank you. Mr. Coleman, so you said no objection to a signature bond, correct?
Obviously, no objection to the signature bond. There's no problem with the stay away.
Okay. Mr. Bryan, on the battery charge, the bond is going to be $2,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. You are to report to pretrial once a month until further order of the court, and you are to have no contact with Tiana Johnson. You have to stay 200 yards away from her. You're not to communicate with her through any way, manner, in person, direct, indirect, through a phone, computer device, and even on social media. Your next court date, it will be sent to your current address. You are not allowed to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and not own or possess any weapons or firearms. Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 6, Mr. Angel Castro.
Mr. Angel Castro is 24 CR 7137J, accused of deposit account fraud, bad checks under $1,500 from October 18th, 2024. Mr. Castro, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Coleman. Any priors? I have 15 cycles. Any FTAs?
2017 theft by taking conviction. Everything else is like just violence.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Mulcahy?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred at the Georgia Credit Union Bank located at 101 Marietta Street in Atlanta. The defendant is accused of trying to cash a fraudulent check in the amount of $975 from the account holder, Victoria Reed. Our office has spoken with Ms. Reed, who states she does not know the defendant. She states that she never puts her bills in her mailbox, but she did this time, and the defendant stole her mail that had her checks. She confirmed the events in the warrant. And stated that she wants no contact with the defendant and wants him to stay away from her residence. The defendant has, it looks like, a couple of convictions, some of them being felonies. So the state's recommendation is going to be a $1,500 surety bond, no further contact with Victoria Reed, stay away from the victim's residence, which I will send. I don't want to say it out loud here. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
All right. I don't think I see a Victoria Reed on Zoom. So, Mr. Coleman, do you have any thing to add?
Yeah, I'd be requesting a signature bond on lieu of that, a low bond for Mr. Castro. He is 29 years of age, a lifelong resident of Atlanta, Fulton County. He is not working, therefore he has no money to post for bond. I remind the court at this time that these are just allegations against Mr. Castro. Again, I'd be requesting a signature bond on lieu of that, a low bond.
Sorry, just give me a moment. Okay. Bond is set at $1,000 surety. To have no contact with Victoria Reed, to stay away from wherever she lives, works, or wherever she's physically present, and to also stay away from the Georgia Credit Union banks the one at 101 Marietta Street in Atlanta, Georgia, and any of their other branches. If Mr. Castro has an account with this particular credit union, he's only allowed to have online transactions. Thank you. Oh, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Next court date is October 31st.
Thank you.
Next is position number 10, Mr. Jesse Daniels.
Jesse Lareco Daniels is accused of criminal trespass from October 18th. Mr. Daniels, your accusation number is 24 CR 7142G.
Second arrest. Last arrest was in August. Possession of a Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance with intent. Possession of drug-related objects. That was at Clark. Case number 24 PI 005964.
And Mr. Daniels, you have been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Coleman. Ms. Mukasey?
Yes, Your Honor. In this case, the defendant is accused of entering the dorm Heritage Commons at Clark Atlanta and going to his girlfriend's dorm room without her permission. Him and his girlfriend then got into an argument which led to the police being called. The defendant is not a current student at the university and was issued a criminal trespass warning and suspended from a previous incident. The state's recommendation is a $1,000 surety bond. Stay away from Clark Atlanta University. No drugs, weapons, or alcohol while out on bond.
He was just released on August 17th, and he's back literally 1 month later. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor,
I don't think he got the memo the last time around.
Yeah, well, I remind the court this time that these are just allegations against Mr. Daniels. He states to me that he is, in fact, a student at Clark Atlanta University. He's to be reinstated shortly at that school. He is 19 years of age. He is a lifelong resident of Atlanta, Fulton County. He is presently employed at Publix. This being only his second arrest. Again, I'd be requesting cinch bond on his behalf. This is a nonviolent offense.
All right. On this particular one, it's going to be a $1,000 surety to stay away from the incident location and to stay away from all of Clark Atlanta University and have no contact with the, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry.
The warrant didn't state her name. That's why.
Then we're just going to have him stay away from all of Clark Atlanta University. He's only allowed back in the classrooms if he has a valid enrollment and current class schedule that he can present to the Clark Atlanta police before he has to be escorted to his classrooms. He can only return to the building with a police escort and with a hard copy of his current enrollment. Please do not come back to jail. Do not give us a reason to revoke your bonds. Comply with these situations and get your cases resolved. Thank you.
Thank you, Honor.
Next court date is October 31st for Mr. Daniels.
Next one is going to be position number 11, Mr. Kareem Hector.
Kareem Hector is accused of simple battery family violence from October 17th. Accusation number 24 CR 007130E. Mr. Hector, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Coleman. See, this is his second arrest. What was the first one?
Driving without a valid license. On probation for that out of Fayette County. That's it.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor. As it relates to Kareem Hector, the state's recommendation is a $3,000 good bond and no further contact with the victim, Consuela Thomas, and to stay away from 3675 High Point Lane. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Consuela Thomas, are you on Zoom? No? Okay. Mr. Coleman?
Your Honor, I'd be requesting a signature bond from Mr. Hector. This is only his second arrest. He is 37 years of age. He's lived here in Atlanta for the last 2 years. He is the father of 5 children, ages 5 to 17. currently employed at Norfolk Southern Railroad as a brake conductor. Again, it's only a second arrest. I'd be requesting a signature bond.
Bond's going to be set at 2,500. It's a signature bond through pretrial services, level 2.
And Your Honor, if I may just make an amendment. I think I asked for no further contact, and it's my understanding that the victim's wish is for there to be no further violent contact. So if I can make that amendment, Your Honor, I greatly appreciate it.
Certainly.
And if the court is inclined to do anger management classes, she's also suggested anger management classes. Thank you.
This is a DV case. So, Mr. Hector, as I was saying, your bond is 2,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. You'll be reporting to pretrial services twice a month until further order of the court. You are to have no violent contact with Consuela Thomas, which means that you can return to the High Point Lane if you want to, but there cannot be any future physical or verbal altercations where police may get involved and you'll be arrested again. If that happens, your signature bond will be revoked. Within 30 days of being released, you are going to enroll in a qualified domestic violence intervention program, and you're going to show proof of that enrollment to your pretrial officer. This is a series of 26 weeks of classes, and you'll have to pay for each class out of your own pocket. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. And make sure that if you change your address, you provide us the change of address in writing as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 12, Mr. Charles Henley.
This is State versus Charles Henley, accused of battery, family violence from September 8th, 2024. Mr. Henley, your accusation number is going to be 20.
I can't get in. Oh, I'm sorry.
As I was saying, your accusation number is 24CR007-132Y. Mr. Henley, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is going to be Ms. Rachel Abden. Now, I do notice there are some people here who are either for or against Mr. Henley. If anybody makes an outburst that is inappropriate or tries to interfere while somebody is talking, I will have you removed from Zoom. Mr. Howard, I'm so sorry. What were you saying?
33. Last arrest was this year, FTA. Appears to have an open domestic battery out of Vegas on probation in Hall County. Simple battery. 2018 false imprisonment, simple battery. It just says indicted. That's it.
All right. Mr. Rowe?
Yes, Your Honor. Very briefly, the state will ask for a $3,000 good bond, and that is mostly based on the over 30 cycles on the GCIC and the allegations of violent charges on the GCIC as well. According to the victim in this case, who is on, Miss Angela Witherspoon Henley, there's been an increase in alcohol intake by Mr. Charles Henley, who is a vet. Your Honor. So we are going to ask that in addition to the $3,000 good bond, that he undergo alcohol drug evaluation and treatment screening while on bond, and that there be no further violent contact with the victim, Angela Witherspoon Henley. Ms. Henley is in fact on the Zoom, so Your Honor, if she'd like to be heard.
All right. And is it Angela or Angela?
Angela.
Angela Witherspoon Henley.
Yes.
Angela Witherspoon.
All right, Ms. Witherspoon, Ms. Henley, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. Who set up your Zoom setting for you? You can put
The baby.
All right. Okay.
Okay. No, there's no problem. Only problem my husband and I, we have adopted a 6-year-old son. I've had him since he was 3 months old, and he's his papa. It's just that Charles when he's not on his medication, he actually goes off, and he drinks. His mind is not quite right. So that's what happened. And it's like he has PTSD. My husband's a great husband, it's just when he drinks, it's a whole new thing and he doesn't think right.
And do you have alcohol at home?
No, I don't.
But he has the car and he's able to go get his own alcohol.
Oh, no, that's not happening.
Well, you're telling me that he drinks, so somehow or another you're not able to control his access to alcohol.
Well, actually, we recently adopted Sebastian, which I've had him. So this happened before we did the adoption. We got the adoption probably about a month ago almost.
What's the adoption got to do with his access to alcohol?
Well, that's when he goes with his friends out to look at the ball game or something. But he's a father
you
figure.
cannot control his access to alcohol.
No, I can't. But pretty much sometimes my husband, when he's sober, he listens to me.
Sometimes it's not good enough, Miss Witherspoon. Not when he ends up in jail and he's got an FTA and he's got a history of significant violence.
So I was asking for drug treatment and rehab. I mean, as far as having to, while he's out on bond, to go to meetings.
Well, that's entirely up to Mr. Henley. That's not something I can.
Asking.
I can order it, but I can order it, but that's really up to him whether he goes and stays away from his buddies who drink.
Well, right now I have heart failure and I recently had a stroke.
Your Honor, so I was subject to all the statements about alcohol and his mental health.
That's the victim telling me. That's the victim telling me her lifestyle with the defendant. Now, I'm trying to ascertain whether I should agree with the prosecutor's statement of no violent contact, given his criminal record history. I'm not inclined to do so. So, do you have a good reason why I should let him back in his home?
Yeah, if I may, Your Honor. So he is 73 years old. He is a disabled veteran. He does suffer from PTSD, as you've heard. He is connected with the VA. He's going to start PTSD counseling. That is, causing a lot of the issues between the parties, is my understanding. That's already been paid for as well. So he's going to start doing that if he is released from jail. He is living on a fixed income, Your Honor. I did hear that the state requested a $3,000 good bond. He would not be able to pay that, Your Honor. I would ask that you would consider, if a bond is necessary, a surety bond, but a pretrial release signature bond would be preferable. That's what we'd be asking for. As you've heard, he does have a 6-year-old child that they care for now, that they recently adopted or are going through the adoption process, is my understanding. Also, the probation matter had been resolved. That's what he was at Hall County previously and then transferred here, was my understanding. They continued him on probation, so he will continue to be monitored by Hall County. I did speak with the complaining witness. It's my understanding that she wants him to come back home. She does need him for the assistance with the baby. She's not afraid of him, and that if Your Honor does not allow him to return home, he does have somewhere else to stay with a friend. But we are asking.
Does that friend drink?
I do not believe so, Your Honor. And Miss Witherspoon did mention to me the alcohol issues, but that was not stated anywhere in the warrant. It's my understanding that has nothing to do with this aside from what she's bringing it up now. So.
Okay. I don't see that he does have a prior FTA. That's my biggest concern. Okay. All right. With an FTA in the last 5 years, he's typically not eligible for a signature bond, but given his current circumstance and the condition of the alleged victim, this is going to be his bond. On the battery family violence, it's going to be a $10,000 signature bond to pretrial services, level 2. It's a $10,000 signature bond, which means you don't have to pay for the bond, but you're going to be required to comply with these conditions. The first condition is no violent contact with Angela Witherspoon Henley. You cannot have any physical or verbal altercations with Miss Witherspoon Henley. If you're not happy with what you're saying, you go and take a long walk outside the house. but there's going to be no physical or verbal altercations that will result in Mr. Henley being back in jail and his signature bond of $10,000 being revoked. He is to be equipped with an ankle monitor for a duration of 6 months. He's not allowed into any facility where alcohol is served or sold. So if he cannot go to a liquor store, he cannot go to a restaurant, he cannot go into a bar, he cannot go to a ball game, and he definitely cannot go into any of his friends' homes where liquor is present or alcohol is present or where it's being served. Within 15 days of being released, 15 days, he is to enroll in an alcohol and drug evaluation and submit himself to any treatment that's required. So if he wants to go to the VA hospital for the evaluation, that's entirely up to him. And then he's to attend AA classes for the duration that is recommended, and that cannot be less than once a week. He's also to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program, and he must do so within 45 days of being released. That's a program of 26 weeks, Mr. Henley, and you'll be required to attend each of those classes once a week at your expense. Monitoring fees for your ankle monitor is going to be paid out of your own pocket. So please be mindful that you'll need to set aside some funds every month for your domestic violence classes and your ankle monitoring fees, at least for the next 6 months. If the ankle monitor shows that you actually strayed and went to a location where alcohol is served, please be mindful that you will be, your bond will be revoked. Also, you're not to consume any alcoholic beverages. And if you didn't get the message, apparently alcohol and you don't mix well. You're also not to consume any illegal drugs. You will be subject to random screens by pretrial for the consumption of any alcohol or any illegal drugs. No weapons and no firearms. From this point onwards, if you own any firearms, they have to be surrendered to the police for destruction. So, Ms. Witherspoon Henley, if there are any firearms at home?
No, ma'am.
Okay, good. That's good to hear. All right, then that concludes the case. Thank you.
Thank you.
Per judge.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Next is position number 14, Mr. Akeem Johnson.
Mr. Akeem Johnson's accused of criminal trespass, willful obstruction of an officer, and I believe those were the 2 misdemeanor charges from October 17th of this year. Your accusation number is 24 CR 7143E. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Ms. Abden. He's got 8 arrest cycles. Any open cases?
Not that I know of.
Okay, Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor. As it relates to Mr. Johnson, the state is recommending 2,000 on the willful obstruction and 1,000 on the criminal trespass. We are asking for a good bond. This is Akeem Johnson.
Yes, Akeem, middle initial is C, Johnson. His date of birth is February 1983, I believe.
Yes, and Your Honor, as it relates to the stay away, I believe.
1993, excuse me.
Stay away. He would need to stay away from the Columbia Senior Residences, which is an apartment in Mechanicsville. I believe that's where he was issued his initial criminal trespass and violated that and picked up this criminal trespass as a result of being there and hiding in a closet. So he will need to stay away from that location. And that's all I got, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Abden?
Thank you, Your Honor. And sorry, just to confirm, that case is open in Fulton County. I just didn't see that when I looked him up.
I've had limited access to Odyssey. That's why I've been asking if there have been any other open cases. So.
Hold on.
Got it. I know there may have been a warning. I'm just trying to confirm that's all, Your Honor, but I can proceed with the.
I have a criminal trespass and burglary case from May 1st, 2020, and it looks like it was time served. I have an obstruction case from July 2021, and looks like he was released on a pretrial signature bond. I don't know what's the status of that case. And now we've got a new trespass case in 2024. So.
All right,
And I've
well,
got a FTA from 2013. And that's just in Fulton County.
thank you, Your Honor. He is 31 years old. He's lived in Georgia his whole life. He is currently employed. He is doing security at Waffle House. He is currently taking care of two children, Your Honor. They are 5 and 2 years old. They are co-parenting, and he plays an active role in their lives. And I'm asking that Your Honor take that into consideration in setting bond today. It is my understanding his last arrest was in 2022, which is 2 years ago. He does have a prior FTA, which Your Honor noted, but it is older than 5 years. He's going to get paid on Tuesday, Your Honor, and so he doesn't have the ability to pay. So I am asking that you do consider a signature bond through pretrial. He currently had some personal struggle, Your Honor. He had his twin sister pass away recently, and he is denying the allegations as stated in the warrant. And in the warrant, it states that his brother actually broke down the door, and the complaining witness agrees with that. So I just want to put that on the record.
And the criminal trespass isn't for damage to property, Your Honor. The criminal trespass was related to being told to stay away from the property, and then being given a verbal warning as it relates to and then coming back.
Okay.
And being,
I was just saying it for the record, understood.
I'm just going by the warrant. Apparently, there's an occupant at that residences called Sherelle Johnson.
That's his mother. His mother, yeah.
And and does he have an alternative residence while he's looking after his kids, or?
He doesn't reside there, Your Honor. Yes, he has a home, and he does, yes.
And what's his current address?
Let me see. Can I send it to you in the chat?
Well, let me see what I've got on booking.
That it's the same thing I have. It is an Atlanta address. I can.
Jones Road?
Correct.
And is there an apartment number?
Not to my knowledge, Your Honor.
Mr. Johnson, is there an apartment number to the Jones Road address? Okay. On the criminal trespass is going to be $2,500. On the willful obstruction is $1,500. His total bond is going to be $4,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services level 2. He's to have no contact with Sherelle Johnson and to stay away from the Columbia Senior Residences at the Mechanicsville location. And Mr. Johnson, you have to stay 500 yards away from that location. So I don't think your address is within 500 yards of that senior residence facility. So make sure you are not seen anywhere near that location. If you return to that location, you will be arrested again. And this next time your bond is going to be $4,000 surety or cash. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. And we will send your new court date to the Jones Road location.
Thank you, Ms. Hall.
Good. Next, we have position number 17, Mr. Thompson.
This is Ogman Thompson, accused of terroristic threat. Are we running a special on terroristic threats today? So, that's not my 5th case. Okay. This is 24 CR 007149F. Mr. Thompson, you are accused of the misdemeanor offense of terroristic threats and acts from October 7th, 2024. You've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Ms. Abden. I've got 4 arrest cycles with an open case in Douglas County. Anything else?
All he got is driving stuff.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly, as it relates to Mr. Thompson, it's alleged to have made terroristic threats against an officer R. Blackman with the Atlanta Police Department. The state is recommending a $3,000 good bond, and that's mostly based on the fact that he does have an open case and the fact that this was threats made towards law enforcement officers and they were terrorizing threats of violence. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Abden?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 29 years old. He's lived in Georgia his whole life. He is currently working as a lead at Google. And so I asked Your Honor to take his employment into consideration. He does need to get back to work and does not want to lose his job. He is currently living at that address, Your Honor. It's my understanding that the alleged incident occurred in the parking lot. My client did not know that the individual he got into a verbal altercation with was an officer. It's my understanding there was nothing visible that would make him think that. It was just somebody in the parking lot he got into a fight with. And so he is denying the allegations as stated in the warrant. He will return to court, Your Honor. And I'm asking for a signature bond through pretrial services.
Bond is set at $1,500, so surety bond. Next court date's October 31st. No violent contact with Officer Blackman, no violent contact with any law enforcement officer, which means that he's not to engage in any kind of physical or verbal altercations with any officer, including Officer Blackman, until further order of the court. Next court date's October 31st. If he bonds out, we'll send notice to his Honeycutt Street location. And if he changes address, make sure we get that in writing. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Next is gonna be position number 18, Mr. Torres Thornton.
Mr. Torres Thornton is accused of willful obstruction of an officer from October 16th of this year, accusation 24 CR 7147J. Mr. Thornton, you've been advised of your rights and Ms. Abden is representing you. I see 13 arrest cycles with open cases.
Open violent charges out of Superior Court.
Right.
Couple of them on probation out of state court for simple battery and battery DV theft by taking.
Okay. Mr. Rhodes? I'm sorry, you're on mute, sir?
That would help. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Officers were investigating a fight incident at 92 Center Avenue in East Point in Fulton County, Georgia, where they encountered the accused standing in front of the resident. Earlier on the same date, officers were advised that the accused assaulted his ex-girlfriend, beat her with a metal pole, and damaged property inside of the residence. Officers who responded to the earlier event advised residents that if he came back, that they would need to call officers back to the scenes. Officers were called back to the location, and upon arrival, officers approached the accused, and that's when he did take off running on foot. He was apprehended, and officers had to give a foot chase for quite a while, Your Honor. The defendant in this case is flagged as a repeat offender. He has a very violent history. The defendant not long ago was released from a 12-year prison sentence for 2 counts of armed robbery. I believe he might have gotten released sometime in 2019. And since the 2019 date, he was arrested. He's been in contact with law enforcement officers at least an additional 7 times on charges like aggravated assault and family violence battery. He does have an open July 2024 aggravated assault for which the victim is the same as the victim in this particular case, Your Honor. In addition, he has a 2023 conviction under 23 CR 005-306A for simple battery, family violence, terroristic threats, and hindering a person from making a 911 call. And it is also the same victim in this case. And there is a 2024 recent conviction under 24 CR 003-211A for simple battery, and that is also the same victim. In that particular conviction, Your Honor, which is still an active probation case that pretrial mentioned, he was sentenced to 12 months probation, and the special condition of that probation was that he stay away from the victim, Emerita Dixon. He has apparently violated that condition of the actual special condition of his sentence. And so the state will be seeking a warrant for aggravated stalking for violation of that bond order, Your Honor, as well as an additional warrant for aggravated assault. Seems as if the officers might have missed the fact that she was beating with a metal pole on this same incident date, Your Honor. So I assume that we are pursuing those additional warrants as we speak. I've had my investigators to go reach out to law enforcement officers to include those particular warrants.
What warrants?
So please let me speak on your behalf. Anything you say is going to be used against you. I'm just going to advise you to remain silent.
So, Your Honor, I'm asking for no bond in this particular case, given the callous disregards of the court's previous orders of several warnings to have no further contact with her and bond orders, but in this most recent 2024 case where it was a part of a special condition of his sentence, Your Honor. If Your Honor is inclined to set a bond, I do know that we are going to get the other warrants. Given the circumstances and the charges that are forthcoming, I'm asking for a bond in the amount of a $20,000 cash bond, Your Honor. I believe it was Judge Melanie Williams that signed that order with the special conditions that I'm telling you about. To stay away from, once and for all, from the victim in this case, Ms. Emerita Dixon, and to stay away from 1792 Center Avenue in East Point, Georgia. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Abdon?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is denying the allegations as stated in the warrant. I understand that we had a long list of history and prior conflicts between the parties. I just want to remind the court these are just allegations at this time. We are just dealing with what has been charged. I understand the state does want to bring additional warrants and charges, but right now we're just dealing with the willful obstruction. Your Honor, my client is 29 years old. Sorry, he's 35 years old. He is currently connected with BDHDD. I didn't have the opportunity to figure out in what capacity, but it's my understanding that he does live on a fixed income. He does have a housing voucher at this time, and he is connected with services. He is currently looking for work. And I'm just going to ask that Your Honor do set a fair bond, and I'm going to object to the state's request to set no bond at all. This is a misdemeanor. He is entitled to a bond at this time.
This location, 1792 Center Avenue in East Point, from what I gather, he's required to stay away from that location.
I wasn't there.
I'm going to advise you to please exercise your right to remain silent. I'm going to speak on your behalf. And Your Honor, he denies the allegations as stated in the warrant. And I believe from my reading of it, he was not caught there. He was caught later somewhere else. I understand there is a description of a chase. Again, Your Honor, just to remind you, these are allegations at this time.
And he's required to have no contact with Emily Dixon or Emmy Dixon from what I understand.
That is correct. Your Honor. Again, I'm going to ask.
I understand, Ms. Abdon. I do understand these are allegations. These are sworn statements being made by a police officer in a warrant. But I also have to take into account his open cases, the fact that he's on probation with no contact and stay away in place.
Understood, Your Honor. I'm just asking that a fair bond be set given he's living on a fixed income.
I'm going to consider a fair bond under the circumstances, including his open cases, his probation cases, and the allegations that not only the same location, but the same victims are being involved.
Understood.
Now, Mr. Thornton, I do understand your outburst, but currently I have a warrant for willful obstruction of a police officer from October 16, 2024, from an alleged pursuit at the Center Avenue location. That's the only warrant I have.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. No, I'm not talking to you to have a conversation. I'm just letting you know. All right. Your attorney is doing an excellent job in trying to preserve your rights. So don't mess it up by talking about the facts of the case, because you're only going to make it more difficult for her.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Now, the prosecutor has also indicated that based on the reports that he's receiving from his investigator and from the police officers, they are considering getting additional warrants. So they don't have those additional warrants yet, but I'm just putting you on notice that that's what they plan to do. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Your bond at the present time is a $3,000 cash bond only. You are to be released on a $3,000 cash bond with an ankle monitor that is for the duration of 12 months. The monitoring fees are to be paid out of your own pocket. You are to stay away from the Center Avenue location and stay 500 yards away from M.E. Dixon. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons. Your next court date is going to be October 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I may spell her name, it's Emerita. It's Emerita.
Emerita. Emerita Dixon. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Your Honor, is going to be position number 19, Mr. Eric Umini.
Mr. Eric Umini is accused of battery family violence from October 11, 2024, and his accusation is 24 CR 7148F. Mr. Umini, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Ms. Abdon. I understand this is his second arrest. What was the first one?
Suspended registration, suspended license, 2023.
That was an arrest? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was surprised too, Your Honor.
Mr. Rhodes?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly. As it relates to Mr. Umini, the state is asking for a $3,000 good bond. If Your Honor was to consider a signature bond, we would ask it to be through pretrial services. There'd be no further contact with Ms. Fofana Kundiatu. I do believe that Ms. Fofana Kundiatu is online with us, and to stay away from 3300 Roswell Road, apartment number 5713. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Kariatu, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If you want to contribute to these proceedings, you will need to unmute and start your video. You'll need to unmute and remove your sunglasses.
Sorry, can you see me?
Yes, but you need to remove your sunglasses, and please turn around so that the window is facing you, because I can only see your silhouette.
Okay.
Turn around some more. All right. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to say something? No? You don't have to. So when you come on Zoom, I just give you the opportunity, but you have the absolute right to remain silent, and you don't have to contribute to anything. All right? Please mute your screen, and you can stop your video if you're not comfortable. Thank you.
The only other thing I would say on her behalf is that she might have been wearing the sunglasses because the officers did observe a swollen, bruised right eye that was completely closed. Looks like it's gotten a lot better now. So thank you, Judge.
Okay. Ms. Abdon?
Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 39 years old. He's lived here in Georgia for some time. He moved here for work. He does have a small home health aid business, so he does need to return to work, and him being in jail would hinder that. He does have 2 children. It's my understanding he has a 2-month-old child with the complaining witness. As we noted earlier, this is his second arrest. The first one was nonviolent, had to do with a driving offense. He does have somewhere else to stay, Your Honor, if Your Honor does not decides that no further contact and a stay away is necessary. My client is denying the allegations. It's my understanding that he was acting in self-defense, and this is not the first time that this has happened. And so we are asking for a signature bond through pretrial services, Your Honor.
What's the alleged immunity defense? I don't know what is it?
Sorry, the alleged offense?
Alleged self-defense. What is it?
And Your Honor, I mean, I did not want to go too much into the facts. I was just being broad, but it's my understanding that he was not the first aggressor. and that there had been instances in the past where he was not the first aggressor and had to
Okay.
defend himself.
I see.
I
Okay.
apologize.
All right, so I'm just looking at the warrant, so I'm just trying to, well, they don't normally spell out the whole story.
Understood.
Okay. Mr. Umani, your bond is going to be set at 5,000. It's going to be a signature bond through pretrial services, level 3. You'll have to report to pretrial services once a week. You are to have no further contact. Yes, Ms. Fofana, you may say something if you wish. Please unmute. Please start the video.
Oh, it says you cannot start your video because the host has asked you to start your video.
The host will prompt you. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
Yes, Ms. Fofana, what would you like to tell us?
I want to also mention that we just got married earlier this year, but Eric does get very aggressive once he drinks and smoke hookah. So I just want that to be aware. And also we have a 3-month newborn. And so there is a protective order in place right now. However, I'm allowing him to see his daughter under supervised visitation through a third party, which is my younger sister, in public.
And anything else?
Is it clear that he is not allowed to just come back home?
I'm going to require him to stay away from you and stay away from the marital home.
Okay.
Anything else?
No, not as no.
Do you believe that he would be in violation of the stay away?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Ms. Abden or Mr. Rhodes?
Nothing else from the state. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. As I was saying, this is going to be a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 3. Mr. Umani is required to report to pretrial once a week. He doesn't have to pay for the bond, but he'll have to comply with the conditions of the bond. As you've already heard, Mr. Umani, you are to have no contact with Fofana Kadiatu, which means that you are to stay 200 yards away from her. You have to stay 200 yards away from 3300 Roswell Road in Atlanta, Georgia, which I assume is the marital home. You are allowed to go back to that location one time only with a police officer to remove your items, but within 30 days of being released, you must update the court with your new mailing address, which cannot be your marital home. As you've also heard from Ms. Fofana, you are allowed supervised visitation with your minor child that you share with Ms. Fofana, and this will be monitored and arranged by a third party appointed by Ms. Fofana Kaditu. And as indicated, it can only be for the duration and the location as set by the third party. Within 30 days of being released, you shall enroll in a domestic violence intervention program, and you will attend all 26 weeks of those classes at your expense. You'll be released with an ankle monitor for the duration of 6 months, and the monitoring fees shall be paid by you. Please understand that if you violate the no contact and the stay away, and the ankle monitoring indicates that you have strayed and violated conditions of the bond, you will be arrested and brought back to jail with no bond. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. You will be subject to random screens by pretrial for alcohol and or illegal drugs. If you fail a screen, you will be arrested and your bond will be revoked. Do you understand the conditions of your bond, Mr. Umani? Thank you. Next case, Deputy. Was that it?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, let's just go over the calendar with the attorneys. Position number 1, Barnett, was a $2,000 signature bond through the jail, but reset it to October 31st because he's got, I believe, a detention pursuant to Superior Court matters. Position 2, BATS is a $3,000 surety bond. Reset date is October 31st, and this can be amended if he is released to the custody of a family member that has yet to be identified. Yes, Ms. Northern, I'm going to get to that. Markel Bryant is going to be a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Position 4, Bird, is a $1,500 surety bond, reset October 31st. Position 5, Carter, is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial level 1. It will need a family member to co-sign, not the mother. I believe she identified a stepfather, Marguis Carter, and she would have to live with Marguis Carter as long as he's not living with the victim. Angel Castro is a $1,000 surety bond, reset date October 31st. Dion Coleman is a $1,500 signature bond to pretrial level 1. Position 8, Cornog, is going to be a $1,000 surety bond, reset October 31st. Kenneth Castello is going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 with random screens. Position 10 is a $1,000 surety bond, reset October 31st for Jesse Daniels. Position 11, Hector, is a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial level 2 with DBIP. Position 12, Henley, is going to be a $10,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2 with ankle monitor for 6 months and DVIP and ADAT required. Let's see, Albert Howard is a $1,000 surety bond. Reset date is October 31st, and this is a release to the parole hold only. Position 14, Johnson, is a $4,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. And stay away from the location in Mechanicsville. Position 13, McCoy, is a $2,500 signature bond through the jail. Position 16 is a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial. And to stay away from the publics, I believe. This is Mosby, right?
Yes, I have the same. And no further contact with the complaining witness.
Yeah. Position 17, Thompson, is a $1,500 surety bond, reset to October 31st. 18, Torres Thornton, is a $3,000 cash bond only with an ankle monitor for 12 months. And no contact with Emerita Dixon, and stay away from the Center Avenue location. Position 19 is a $5,000 signature bond for pretrial level 3, DVIP and ankle monitor. And the add-on case, Kelly, is a $1,500 signature bond for pretrial level 1, no violent contact.
Your Honor, I did have one inquiry I wanted to make. It was for Aaron Nolan. He was on the calendar, I believe. We were able to have his case successfully transferred, but it was after the first appearance calendar for felony court. And so what we did was we wanted to address bond as it relates to this particular person, because I believe that if he stays in through Monday, then we would be looking at a Riverside issue. So we did want to address bond on Aaron Nolan.
All right, does he have an accusation number or just a booking number?
He does have a booking number, Your Honor.
May I have it?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I already interviewed him, Your Honor. I was wondering where he went.
Oh, I did see him on the calendar, but I
Yeah.
didn't see him on the pull sheet, so I thought he was NOD, but looks like he
We
didn't.
were told that he was being transferred.
Okay.
241-8105. And in my email, what I did tell them, 241-8105, was that although he's being transferred, he would not make it to the first appearance for felony court. So I did want to address bond.
Was that 095?
I'm sorry, 241-8105.
8105. Okay. So, yep, that's not quite Mr. Nolan. So,
Oh, that's not it?
No, I got a different number, sorry. 2418105.
Yes.
All right, I have Nolan, Aaron Jamul Nolan, is that correct?
That is, Your Honor.
Okay, and he's currently cited with reckless conduct.
Yes, Your Honor.
And there is an electronic warrant. Mhm. Okay, so the allegation according to the warrant is 1278 Central Avenue. Oh, looks like a pop.
1278, that's correct.
Okay. All right, and what's the issue with bond?
Yes, Your Honor. So as it relates to bond on this case, we would like to address it, given that his arrest date was October 16th, and today would be the 72-hour deadline for us to address bond for him. Just wanted to briefly, and I guess I would ask Ms. Abden, is it okay if I proceed? I know he's not here. Are you okay with?
I have not waived his appearance. I would prefer that he be present. I can't represent him without him being here, and I can't waive his appearance without speaking with him and getting his permission.
Okay, that's not a problem. Bond is set at $5,000 cash bond, and we will see him on Monday at 2 p.m. to address a modification if he's still, right now he's got no bond. So,
Your Honor, can they bring him over? I do want him to have the opportunity to be heard. I mean,
he'll be heard on Monday. Right now, I'm just amending it from a no bond to a cash bond.
Understood.
So that at least he has a bond.
Understood.
There won't be a Riverside issue. And I'll reset his case to Monday at 2 p.m. I don't know whether he'll be transferred by then, because if he's transferred, then the issue is moot. All right?
Mr. Rowe plan on, I mean, if he's not on a pool sheet for
No,
Monday.
we should put the booking number at the top. And let me give you, we would put the booking number and the NPC number, which is.
Yeah, I see all that, Judge. I got all that. It's just that to put it on the SEA counter, I guess we'll try to figure it out the best way we can without an accusation generating an odyssey to put it on there. It will have to be, I guess, manually done because they're not going to pull him if he's not physically on the counter.
Just indicate as an add-on that he's reset from Saturday to address bond.
Okay.
But if he's transferred, then the issue is moot. Anything else, Mr. Rhodes?
No, thank you, Your Honor. That's all I had. Coincidentally, I was going to ask for a $50,000 bond. So thank you, Your Honor. Have a good
All right, folks. Y'all have a good afternoon, and we'll see y'all bright and early on Monday. Some of you are lucky enough to work that day. All right, thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Good rest of the day.
You too. Thank you, Ms. Coleman. Ms. Lewis. Ms. Lewis, I'll wait for you. No problem.
Oh, okay. No problem. I mean, well, Miss Bridgewater, she's doing your orders.
Oh, she is. Okay, there she is. That's right. Okay. All right, guys, I will wait for you. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.